Welcome back. The presidential election now exactly 21 days away. Early voting in the battleground state of Georgia begins today. By the way, it's Georgia as well as North Carolina as well as Nevada this week beginning early voting. And then next week, early voting in the swing state of Wisconsin gets underway. Polls show an extremely tight race between Harris and Trump there. A recent Wall Street Journal poll finds Harris has a 1-point lead on Trump in the Badger State. However, a new Quinnipiac poll finds Trump has a 2-point lead in Wisconsin. Joining me now is Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany, a member of the House Judiciary and Republican Study Committees. Congressman, good to see you. What do you think about the state of the race? Do you believe these polls, that it's this close? How will Wisconsin vote?
I think Wisconsin will be close, much like 2016 and 2020, but it's clear the momentum is on President Trump's side.
And do you believe that the issues we're talking about are the most important? I'm talking inflation and immigration. What else is important to Wisconsin voters?
Yeah, I think that immigration segment that you just did, Maria, really hits the nail on the head. So you talked about hotels right outside of where you're at in New York City. Go to the small town of Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, where the Venezuelan gang member beat up a woman in the little community of Prairie du Chien on the Mississippi River. This is happening all over America. Every state is a border state. But Maria, you know what I think was the most consequential thing that came out over the last month? Was the non-endorsement by the Teamsters, because it was the tip of the iceberg for the Harris campaign that she's got real trouble with working class people. I think that was the biggest danger sign that came out, and that is why you're seeing Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin moving in President Trump's direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it feels like the working man and woman is with Trump. And I asked President Trump that on Sunday, and I said, look, why do you think the bosses are not there? He said, the bosses are with me. He said, the union bosses are with me as well. They just don't want to admit it right now because of the attacks that people get when you support Trump. Do you believe that? Do you believe that the unions are with Trump, and why?
Oh, they will privately tell you the union bosses. They'll tell you their members are voting 2-to-1, 3-to-1 for President Trump. They can say whatever they want to. And I think the Teamsters president, I think he did what he did because he wants to keep his job when he comes up for re-election. By the way, one other quick thing, Maria. Look at that hat that Bill Clinton had on. That was a camouflage hat. They are trying to find anybody that can appeal to men here in America. They're doing anything, including putting Bill Clinton out there in rural America.
Well, that's very funny. Yeah, the hat was like it said Harris-Walz, but there was also this whole exercise that they put Tim Walz through. Go get a shotgun and go say you're going shooting. He was having real trouble operating the shotgun, almost like I had to question whether or not he's actually held a gun. What was that about?
So, Maria, I think this is a John Kerry moment for the Harris-Walz campaign, where they're trying to pretend that they are these hunting folks here in America. I can tell you, sportsmen, hunters, they see through that BS, and it's actually going to harm them. Yeah,
because it just shows, not authentic. Being someone that you're really not, just tell us the truth, okay? The House Homeland Security Committee is now investigating the administration's FEMA priorities. This is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's priorities after the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told us all. He warned that the agency does not have enough funding for the remainder of hurricane season. After Hurricanes Helene and Milton, he actually said it right after Hurricane Helene, as Milton was on its way. Republicans are questioning whether FEMA was aware that they would not have enough money for the storms, while at the same time requesting large amounts of money to fund a shelter and services program for illegal migrants. So, Congressman, we know what the administration is saying about this. They're saying, oh, no, this is different pools of money. We do not use FEMA money. It's misinformation. But we had KJP tell us 2 years ago in 2020, Karine Jean-Pierre, exactly how FEMA was opening up to illegal migrants, and they were using the food and assistance program to send to illegal migrants across the country. Is that what they did with this obsession with an open border? They actually used emergency money for hurricanes and other natural disasters. They used that to house and care for the illegals?
Yeah, they're using any pot of money that they can find to be able to house, transport, provide benefits for illegal aliens. Here's what I think is going to be the big story is it's always a year or two later that we find out the truth about this stuff. So we point out that, hey, there may be a problem for FEMA. We get shouted down, right? And then ultimately, we're going to find out a year or two from now that it was actually the truth. 3 years ago, I was fact-checked by PolitiFact about bringing Afghan refugees in and that some may be on the terror watch list. They said mostly false. Well, look at a week ago when one of those Afghan refugees was arrested by the FBI. It's the same thing. We will find out the truth later. We know that money is going there. We just want to know the extent of it. Wow. And Mayorkas set this off when he said, hey, we need more money. And here's what my constituents say, Maria. They go, you guys have been authorizing trillions of dollars, not billions, trillions. How is there not money in FEMA to be able to take care of a disaster?
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you just authorize in your most recent continuing resolution an additional $20 billion for FEMA?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but that could very well be correct. Certainly, it's a continuing resolution. It continues to spend the money that has been authorized previously, right. So I would believe the answer is yes. Yeah,
okay. You mentioned Bill Clinton and that hat that he had on the other day. During that moment, when he's over there on the campaign stumping for Kamala Harris, he gets into the border, and he starts discussing the murder of the Georgia nursing student, Laken Riley. We know that Laken Riley was killed by an illegal migrant in February. Here's Bill Clinton. Watch.
Trump killed the bill. The bill was being written by senior Republicans in the Senate, and he killed the bill. Why? You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen.
If they were properly vetted, it would not have happened. He just told us the truth. Clinton claimed that Trump stopped a bill that would have secured the border and helped vet migrants. Tell us about this, because the bill that he's referring to, I believe, was written by Lankford, a Republican, but at the end of the day, Lankford actually voted against it. What was wrong with that bill?
It allows 5,000 people in a day. It's nearly 2 million people that they're going to allow illegally into the country. It does not secure the border.
And I just want to say this. To conflate that bill with the murder of Laken Riley, let's be clear, okay? The bill was dead this year, but the Venezuelan national accused of killing Riley entered and was released in the country in 2022. So these are two separate situations, and you can't conflate them. The Trump campaign responded, and they said this, quote, Kamala Harris claimed the border was secure just days after Laken Riley's illegal immigrant killer, Jose Ibarra, crossed into the nation. Ibarra was caught at the border and then released into the country by Kamala Harris. That's from the Trump campaign. But there's really no way to argue that any of this is related, because he was arrested and released in 2022, Congressman. But go ahead. Please tell us what was wrong with the bill.
So it allows almost 2 million people to be able to come in illegally. It fast tracks legalizing people being able to come into this country. It does nothing about parole. I mean, I get this question frequently that you're bringing up, and my answer is consistently, I did not need President Trump to tell me that I shouldn't support it. After we passed H.R. 2 and then they started talking about this bill in the Senate, I was messaging to the Senate saying, don't pass this bill because it does not secure the border. And let's remember, how do you go back and secure the border? The executive branch has that authority right now. You don't need any bill. Harris and Biden can do it right now, today, secure the border. And they're just trying to, like you said, they're trying to conflate the issue and confuse the American people because they know how deadly this issue is at the polls.
Yeah, that's politics for you. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. Tiffany joining us in Wisconsin. We'll be right back. Stay with us.